Well, the weather may not have got the memo, but the British turf season is upon us, and it starts, as ever, in Doncaster with the traditional curtain raiser, the two-day Lincoln meeting. And joining me to take a look at the feature races this weekend are Matt Brocklebank and Kieran Clark. Now, chaps, before we get into the action, you must be pretty excited for the return of the turf to British shores.
Can't you tell? We're buzzing, Dom. We're absolutely buzzing. Loads to look forward to throughout the year. I mean, these sort of classic trials, we're not far off, about a month to the Guineas, aren't we? You know, classic trials really come thick and fast now. We've got one on Sunday, a real talking horse running in the Ballysacks this weekend as well. So, yeah, loads to look forward to, and it really hits the ground running. One or two issues with the ground at Doncaster. Obviously, the weather's played a big part this week, hasn't it, Kieran?
Yeah.
But there's some quality horses in action.
Yeah, quality horses, quality prize money, £150,000 for the Lincoln. The Constellation of Spring Mile, £75,000, nearly £40,000 for the Brocklesby. So plenty to go out. Doncaster have put the money on and the horses have turned up. So hopefully, it is tricky. We'll get that little side note in, but hopefully we've found a few winners anyway.
First up then, it's the Lincoln Handicap itself, 3:35 on Saturday, Kieran. As we can see then from the Timeform ratings that are coming up on screen now, it's not only a really competitive edition, but a classy one as well.
Yeah, this is probably the best Lincoln I can remember anyway. It's full of improvers, horses that could be potential group performers. The top rated there a while is certainly one of those. More to come from him very soon. And then the likes of Montasip and Wanis, whose form tying together, and Baradar, whose rating is quite high, 122, but that is over a shorter trip. And I just worry that a stiff mile on testing ground might just find him out. But there's plenty for us to get stuck into. And probably no better place to start than Awal, who's probably going to be favourite, you think.
So you mentioned Awal there, 124 with a small p. The small p, of course, donating that he has potential for further improvement. And we can take a look at his race at Redcar. Kieran, just talk us through this.
Yeah, so the majority of them there you see came far side this day. And this was only his fourth start. He'd won his penultimate start prior to that when he beat Thesis, who came out and won at Royal Ascot. And he couldn't have been more impressive here. This was on soft ground. We called the ground soft at Timeform, and he comes out a really ready winner by nearly 4 lengths, and he really powers away late on, and he has been gelded since, but that's no bad thing. And I really like this yard, the Chrisford's yards. They're doing everything right at the minute. They almost won the Dubai World Cup last weekend, and one thing I like about his horse is related to Bretton Rock. Now, he was a proper favourite of mine. Anytime the ground was soft, he was straight on the top of the shortlist. So he's a son of Lope de Vega as well. So he'll love the ground. And Connections did really well with a horse called Jadumi last year, who was actually rated lower than this one at the start of last season. He ended up being placed at Group 1 level. Now, there's every chance a while could do the same. He's done absolutely nothing wrong. He's still unexposed. And yeah, he's definitely the one to have to beat, albeit in a big competitive field.
He's among the favourites, Matt, but so is Alma Beer. What did you make of his win at Haydock back in October?
Well, it was a big improvement, Dom. Again, I think we were seeing it here. Haydock ground in October is that specialist sort of ground we're talking about, and it was heavy officially this day. And you kind of have to weigh up whether he was, you know, he's a big son of Frank Cruz, clearly appreciated the ground and ploughed through it really, really well, and maybe one or two others haven't. But it was a big step forward. Look, you know, the drop back to a mile, getting on a bit of juice in the ground towards the back end. It was no great surprise. I think he's one of these horses that's maybe just taken a bit of time to fill his frame. You know, he showed a fair bit. He did win a maiden as a 2-year-old, but then slowly as a 3-year-old, he was put away for the bulk of the summer for 100 days last year. And you kind of think that was probably a going thing. It was so hot, wasn't it, last year? And the ground really dried out. And he absolutely came to fruition in the autumn. Is he going to kick on this year? He's up 7 pounds in the weights, but William Haggis has absolutely hit the ground running. Obviously, winning last week's Lincolnshire in Ireland as well, so it'd be a hell of a double to pull off, and you can certainly see why he's towards the top of the betting. I mean, sounded like Haggis wanted Ryan Moore, didn't he, to get him? He's got Andrea saying he probably a next best thing. Yeah,
just slight concern I'd have. He's won a tongue tie since his debut, and he's had a breathing up since. Now, we're not sure of the severity of that, but it would be a slight concern. £7 definitely wouldn't have stopped him last time, and he is quite a stocky type, so just a slight concern for one that's short at 4-1, but he's definitely in the right hands. And big year for Andrea Razzini as well, isn't it? He lost his return at last year, so he's probably on the comeback trail for these big prizes.
Okay, so another key piece of form to go on would be Winnie's win at Haydock from Montecebe. He also goes well fresh, Kieran, as we can see here when getting up at Sandown last April.
Yeah, you see here he's quite a strong traveller. He's on the outside in the Shadwell colours. This was off a £5 lower mark than what he's off today, but like you said, a key piece of form would be that Haydock run when he beat Montesab by 3/4 of a length. Montesab is £2 better off in the weights, but the thing that's quite interesting with both these two is they've never ran on ground that time form have called soft, and it would just be a little bit of an issue for me. Montesib is an Exceed and Excel. They tend to like top of the grounds. Now, I'm not pigeonholing every runner by that sire, but it just tends to be the case. And Winnie's was quite in and out last season. He does go well fresh, as we've seen there, but I just thought those two might be worth taking on for all that their form does tie in closely. He improved for being gelded when before he won there at Haydock, so that was something to note. And Charlie Hills can target one, but I just thought others had stronger form claims. Personally, I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that form line, Matt?
Yeah, I thought Wanese was actually well on top of the line when you go to the Haydock race when he beat Montesib. There are a couple actually in there that ran okay, you know, that you could sort of see them running quite well. Uncourageable is one. I thought he hung in quite tough in that Haydock race towards the back end. He'd sort of made the running that day, and he was another 3-year-old who ran pretty well. He's going to appreciate the ground, and you wouldn't want him getting loose on the front at all. But yeah, I'm going to be looking away from these two as well, personally.
Okay, selection time. A most likely winner and an outsider from each of you, please. Kieran, let's come to you first.
Yeah, I'm quite sweet on a while. I have been for quite a while. I wrote him up for the horses to follow book, so I'm going to have to follow him throughout the season. I think he's a group horse masquerading in a handicap. He'll probably need to be off a mark of 102. Couple of outsiders. I'll mention Empire State of Mind. He's a really reliable sort. He always runs a good race. Taylor Fisher takes a valuable £5 off. He'll be there or thereabouts, but the one I'm going to put up at an each way price is Encourageable that Matt just said. He's only had 7 starts. He improved for front running when he won 2 starts ago, and then he went a bit quick on the front end last time. James Horton, big season for him, second season as a trainer I've got a lot of time for, training for the dances. David Probert, interesting jockey booking as well, usually ridden by PJ McDonald, but 28 to 1 you can get first 7 places. He's of interest, but yeah, I think a while will be very hard to beat.
Yeah, I'm in agreement about the top of the market. I do think Awal could go off quite short here, and if there is a Group 1, Group 2 horse in there, it's probably him. I've got to shout Bo Pedro. He was my anti-post selection for this race. I was kind of hoping he'd be he'd come here on soft ground, and he's got his ground. Look, he's not going to be a future Group 1, Group 2 horse. But if there's one horse that's likely to have been trained for one day all season, I think it could have been this. I mean, he had 5 runs for David O'Meara after joining from Jessica Harrington last summer. He ran pretty well on a couple of them, most notably last time out on soft ground at Doncaster. So I think it was very much a sighter just at the back end of last season. He's gone up a pound for that run, finished second to Totally Charming. Totally Charming ran quite well in Ireland last weekend, went off among the favourites. And Bo Pedro, he's still well handicapped. He was rated 107 at his peak. He's actually won one of those really big races at the Curragh. It was the Irish Cambridge, wasn't it, a couple of seasons ago. So the quality's there. I think he'll go in the ground. And I think, now I'm guessing a little bit here, like you are most of the time in these handicaps when it comes to the draw, but I think you want to be drawn middle to high. So he's drawn 18. I don't think that's a bad draw at all. I'm well aware that Encourageable is drawn 3, and some of those pace horses are a bit more towards the far side, but I think the real classy horses are drawn high, and I think Awal might help drag them along.
Okay, let's turn our attention to the Cammidge Trophy at 3 o'clock. And it's a decent turnout for this listed sprint race. Let's take a look at the time form ratings now then, and we can see that there's not a lot to pick between the top 5 or 6, Kieran.
Yeah, I think it has makings of quite strong early season form. Usually it's the all-weather horses versus a few classy types, but we've got some really good reliable types. We've got horses dropping in grade, we've got handicappers stepping up in grade, so we're going to find out plenty about these and what's to come this season. You see there Comanche Falls, he's top rated, he's a really reliable type both in handicaps, and he's got a bit of group form as well. El Caballo, who was a really good 3-year-old last year, King's Lynn's a group winner, fast response, highly progressive. There's just plenty to go at him.
Yeah, as you say, there's some real good solid performers, isn't there? The King's Lynn, you'd have to highlight, he's got a good record at Doncaster. He's just that very solid kind of Group 3, Group 2 kind of horse that could well be winning this a race like this.
Fitness, a key factor?
Yeah, it could well be. I mean, we don't really know the relative fitnesses of a lot of these horses coming back from their sort of winter layoffs. One or two of them have got all-weather runs on the belt. I don't think they're quite up to this winning it, so it probably will go to one of those having their seasonal debuts. El Caballo really does stand out, doesn't it? It's just we haven't seen him since last summer. He went off favourite for the Commonwealth Cup at Royal Ascot after really shooting through the grades. By this time last year, he'd already like rocketed through the grades in the all-weather scene, and then went and won Haydock, didn't he?
He did, yeah. I'm just not sure that form is as good as it looked at the time. He beat Flaming Rib of Wings of War, who, you know, they brought some good form to the table. Flaming Rib placed at Group 1 level, but you put those in here and you're up against some really hardy older sprinters, and you love the ground dog.
I'd say I was trying to think back. Was the fast ground last summer put forward as an excuse for El Caballo?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's certainly from our perspective, and I'm not sure Connections blamed it, but we definitely did. We said he's a better horse on softer ground. He'll definitely love the conditions. He finds plenty for pressure. It's just his price, isn't it? 5-2 about a horse that hasn't ran since last year, and I'd be happy to take him on.
Comanche Falls then, he's the time form top-rated horse here, and we can see him winning the Stewards Cup last season, Kieran.
Yeah, this was for the second successive year. One thing this horse has is a really good record fresh. He's a really reliable type. He was third in the Bengoff Stakes at Ascot as well last year behind Rohan and Summergans. That form is absolutely rock solid. I like the ground. This is a bit painful to watch back considering I backed the second at 20-1, but he's a really, really tough horse, Comanche Falls. You see him there on the near side. I'm pretty sure he's a half-brother to Dakota Gold, and both of those, don't be alarmed if he plays up at the start. They go in the stalls by themselves, and weird how both of them do it, but you see there he wasn't to be denied. And just a quick mention of Michael Dodds. He's not had a winner yet this year. A few have run well, but you just get the feeling he's ready to rock and roll with that good record fresh. The yard do normally do quite well in April. Just a bit worried that he hasn't managed to get one in front as of yet at this time of recording. But yeah, you got to respect his chance.
Matt Asjad, another progressive handicapper, and well worth his place in a race like this. How do you weigh up his chances?
Yeah, I would say so. A bit like Comanche Falls, he's kind of like a handicapper who's really earned a shot at it now. Now he's scaled through the rankings, rated 107. You know, he's suddenly going to be carrying real big weights in handicaps, or he's going to shoot for listed and Group 2 prizes, Group 3 races. You'd say, I mean, soft ground's going to be absolutely right up his street. He's proven at Doncaster. The one thing, and I'm sure we'll come to this a bit later, but the one thing about him is that he seems to like chasing down a strong gallop, and Kieran did touch upon it there. I wonder if maybe there's just going to be a lack of early pace in this race. I know there's one or two that kind of go forward, but there isn't like a searing front runner in here who's going to tee it up for a horse like Asjad, because he does like to really come late. I wonder if maybe Fast Response and El Caballo, the two stablemates, might not necessarily get it on their own way, but I think they might get first run on 1-2 of these.
Well, let's take a look at Asjad at York in May last year. Ideally, he's going to need a good pace to chase, Kieran.
He is, yeah. This was this a Sunday Series race? I can't remember off the top of my head, but one thing this horse does have, it's a very, very good record fresh. He's 2 from 2. It's that man James Horton again, and no better hold-up jockey than Danny Tudor, but it would just be that lack of a gallop that would be an issue. You see here, these big field handicaps, you're always guaranteed a strong pace. You come into these smaller fields, pattern events, and they can sometimes just turn into sprints from halfway. And he's always struck me as a horse that likes to weave his way between horses and come off that strong pace. You see there, he toughs it out at the finish. He's up against some really classy animals here, though, and even some of them are a bigger price than him. There was enough at the 11-2 for me to take him on anyway.
Okay, selections. Who wins the Cammidge Trophy? Matt?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Fast Response. I think he's kind of like, he's kind of like the fairly obvious alternative to El Caballo to me. I just know fine well Cal Burke's going to have her absolutely ready for this. I know she carries a little bit more weight than you'd like to see. She's kind of penalised for that listed win at the end of last season, but she was a remarkable success story last season for Nick Bradley and the gang. Again, like, you've got to think about the season as a whole. El Caballo, if there's one that's going to be winning Group 1 races, maybe at Royal Ascot, it could well be him. But just to be able to nick one of these early season prizes, I wouldn't be shocked if Fast Response was really razor sharp for this. And just, I'm hoping she picks up where she left off, because when she won at Doncaster in that listed race, she was beating some nice horses that day. Horses rated 110 or something. And she's absolutely earned a shot at this. I think she's a bit of value.
I quite like King's Lynn in this, Tom. He's 2 from 4 over this track. 2 seconds were his defeats.
He'll absolutely love the ground. Andrew Baldwin's going well, and he's one of these that's just not quite good enough at the top level. 3 of his last 4 starts are in Group 1 company. His other one where he finished 4th, he needed the run, and he started last season with a bang. He was winner of the Temple Stakes at Haydock. He's very versatile in regards to 5 and 6 furlongs. Now, we'll see in a minute the pace, Matt. There is a lack of pace here, and the draw can sometimes be against those drawn high as well. But he's tactically versatile. Andrew Baldwin in good nick. I think he's massively overpriced at 13-2. I thought it'd be more 4-1.
Okay, thank you, Kieran, and thank you, Matt. Thanks both for joining us on the Sporting Life Weekend Racing Preview. Don't forget, you can get Matt's Value Bet every Friday afternoon on sportinglife.com. And both Matt and Kieran are regular contributors to our Saturday Bankers piece, which highlights the team's wider selections for the weekend. So, good luck if you're following any of our recommended best bets. And don't forget to stay in touch with sportinglife.com. You can get us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook. We're on everything these days.